I shall not pass. Everybody get down to the chopper. Truthfully, I don't even know what the hell I was saying there, and it doesn't really matter. I'm just continuing on here, about 5 minutes after my part 1 there, and pardon the cup of coffee. So, as you can tell, I was having some, still having some nasal issues, and I tried stuck my vaporizer up my nose, my lightsaber up my nose, and pulled the trigger. Turns out that clears the sinuses pretty well. And giggity goo is all I could say to that. And, well, I'll get to brass tacks here. The impersonation things are incredibly fun to me. And, I really enjoy doing this one the absolute most, because it releases a piece of my soul, as can well be probably understood. I'm doing, this should be 20 videos at this point, and, pardon the burp, and this is video number 20. This is quite a milestone. Now, I've done this in an incredibly short amount of time, and it's mostly just because I've had nothing better to do. This is what I'm calling work at the moment, because of my situation. And the Laugh Man kind of has a little thing where the Joker is a release for me. I'm not the first, and I'm not the last. I've poured through the internet. There are so many Joker worshippers that it is not even funny. I mean, it's so cliche that, I've got a thing for cheesy cliches, and this is just another extension of that to an extent. And it's one that I thoroughly enjoy, as you can probably well tell. It's one I enjoy so much that, I'm actually having more fun with it today than I've really ever had in quite a long time. And please, this is all pure for comedy's sake, obviously. I'm just trying to get a laugh for myself, mostly, and for anybody else that wants to listen. And the improvised style that comes along with radio shows is one that I hold very dear, because it's the way not to go with the script. I mean, it's real conversation, even if I'm just sitting here monologuing this entire time. And it's a side that, I feel that I have an ability to give a voice to a character, to an extended character, that didn't get, he got the greatest chance in portrayal and was, the icon. He was the icon. And he left such an impact on the world. And it's only fitting that, we carry on a piece of it, even if it's just in a form of cheesy art. A form of cheesy art here. That the ability to just, speak a mind, even if it doesn't really go much of anywhere, or coming from a guy that's really kind of lost his mind in a way. And, I've never really had a chance to, test this with anybody. I've never sat and had conversations with anybody like this. Why the heck would anybody? Because, it just comes off so crass and almost maybe disrespectful. But, that's kind of the nature of comedy, is minor disrespect in the form to get a laugh. I mean, we can look at many of the greatest comedians. The great Prophet Carlin, as a great example, started off with clean and then worked his way into what I would call a dirty Plato. And the Bob Saget is another one of these guys. It was a very clean comedian and worked his way into a very dirty Socrates or something. I really don't know if that would be a proper term for him, but it's still there. That the day and age that we've lived in has gone from 1950s brusque to a day and age where respect for society has not just, it's not a joke, but it sure seems like it to a lot of older people, to the point that they get tuned out. And I mean, I've run across people that don't even know this version of the Joker. This version of the Joker at all. And it's funny in its own right. It's funny in its own right, but, you know, for a guy like me, who really doesn't have much of anything, it might come off as a little crass, a little robust, blunt, disrespectful, and nothing even worth listening to. I mean, I've gotten more laughs just out listening to it myself over and over for days on end than I have listening to the great Prophet Carlin. And Lord bless his soul, I didn't get into Carlin until, you know, probably a little bit before till about 2008. I was a really late comer to the game as far as he was concerned, and as soon as I really discovered him, I got really hardcore into him. You know, I grew up on Jeff Foxworthy. That's where I really grew up on, as far as comedians were concerned. As far as real, true comedians, him, Bill Cosby, Dave Coulier, people like that, you know, and Charlie Sheen when he was doing Hot Shots, Val Kilmer when he was doing Top Secret, things like that. You know, Leslie Nielsen, he would be one of my greatest idols by far and away, and I can't do a impersonation for some of these guys as well as I'd like to. And I mean, another for the great comedies that fits the theme so well is the live action Wile E. Coyote Super Genius. The Villain with Kirk Douglas and Arnold Schwarzenegger. And you know, that one was iconic in its role because Kirk Douglas has been a hero of mine since I was a child. I mean, ever since, you know, the War Wagon and many other roles. Him and his son Michael Douglas, by far and away. Romancing the Stone, you know, Jewel of the Nile, stuff like that. Harrison Ford, I mean, a lot of these guys were comedians and probably never really meant to be that big comedians, but their movies were just funny because of the way they were written. That's the comedic role in great storytelling is a necessity. Is a necessity for some of the greatest, in my opinion, stories ever written. I mean, one of the most iconic, even though it may not be the most respected, is the 19... I don't remember if it was 84 or 85 movie. It was Legend with you know, Tom Cruise looking like Link from The Legend of Zelda, and you know, the greatest devil of all time, Tim Curry himself. No joke. Okay? This is the best makeup role for that role ever, in my opinion. And, you know, I also grew... The other two great comedians is Raul Julio and Christopher Lloyd. Addams Family, the early 1990s movies, the Ninja Turtles actors, which I don't even remember the name of any one of those guys. I mean the voice actors, not, you know, the great artists and stuff that they were named after. this is the kind of thing you get with improvised monologue, especially from a guy that, you know, styles himself as a self-made philosopher from after, you know, years at the Unseen University. Thank you, Terry Pratchett, for that wonderful title, you know, moniker for the internet. And just robust loves of comedy in general. And with, you know, it's like going back to the original Adam West Batman. That entire series was a comedy. It literally was. It was built for the kids. It was built for the adults. And it was cheesy to boot for a reason. It was meant to be watched by everybody. By everybody. And, you know, the difference between rated G movies back then versus, well, for me, these days, it's really hard to tell the difference between a rated R movie and a PG-13 movie, because, you know, when you get into the Dark Knight series, from, you know, where I'm basically coming from here, those movies, if they had any blood and guts in them, they would have been rated R, and anything beyond that, they were just as crass and great as any of the legendary rated R movies, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Terminator. You know, those would have been a PG-13 movie. I mean, I don't even know why, in this day and age, the difference between Terminator 2 and The Dark Knight. Because there was just as many deaths, just as much violence, and not really that much blood and guts. I will just straight out say that. There was not really that much gore, and really not that bad a language in those movies. Terminator 2, it might as well have been a PG-13 movie these days. The darkest movie, I mean, I can remember in a long time, for animated, was The Black Cauldron. By far and away, The Black Cauldron. That is literally the darkest Disney movie I've ever seen. The only one that even came close to it was Sleeping Beauty. And that one even doesn't do it justice, you know? And, you know, everybody's a movie critic. Everybody's a movie critic, especially when every movie out there is basically owned by Disney these days, including Star Wars now. And everybody's who gets into movies is always a movie critic. It was like having a conversation the other night with my other cohorts. Is that just my rationalizing? You know, back in the 50s through the 70s. I mean, even before, you basically had for action movies. Okay, you had two big styles. You had the war movies and you had the cowboys. And you had the old school westerns. These days, we got superheroes and we got action movies. For the two main ones. I mean, it's a little bit different. And, you know, in the action movies, we've got the war movies, we've got the spy movies, and a little bit of everything in between. Then we got the superhero movies. Whereas, the superhero movies never really got big until way later, and we always had the spy movies, but they were their own thing, and they didn't become they were cool, but they didn't become near as popular as far as I could tell until like way later, and especially in this day and age where everything is James Bond, and everything we work with is James Bond style technology these days, and I think I'm just running my tongue here into a round of nothing, and I think I'll just leave you with that. As far as culture is concerned, a lone impersonator monologuing to himself, being a movie critic, is quite the norm for these days, especially when you spend sitting on the end of a computer for most of your life. I hope that rounds us out for you. Have a wonderful afternoon, and here's a final laugh from the Laugh Man.